A plan to use eminent domain to fight foreclosures in Richmond ripples all the way to Wall Street. Recent labor disputes renew the debate over employee unions and their role in today's economy. Chevron will pay $2 million for last year's refinery blaze that sent thousands to hospitals. And some California school districts get to say no thanks to the federal No Child Left Behind program. Plus, remembering pioneering Bay Area sculptor Ruth Asawa. Coming up next.
Good evening, I'm Thuy Vu. Welcome to This Week in Northern California. Joining me for insights and analysis of news from the week are Jill Tucker, San Francisco Chronicle education reporter; David Baker, energy reporter, also with the Chronicle; Josh Richmond, Bay Area News Group politics reporter; and Carolyn Said, San Francisco Chronicle business reporter. Richmond may become the first city to use eminent domain to combat the foreclosure problem. The city is offering to buy underwater mortgages at a discount and help its residents refinance their homes. Now, if lenders refuse, the city is threatening to seize the mortgages anyway. Already, bondholders have filed a lawsuit to block this move, while investors on Wall Street are watching developments closely. Carolyn, how would this plan work, and why is there such strong opposition to it?
Well, as you said, Richmond is threatening to become the first city in the country to exercise its power of eminent domain in this very radical plan. How it would work is Richmond and the private partner, a for-profit investment firm that it's partnered with,
That's Mortgage Resolution Partners?
Mortgage Resolution Partners. Suppose I owed $500,000 on my mortgage, but my house was worth just $300,000. If Richmond exercised its power of eminent domain, it would buy that house forcibly, not the house, the mortgage, from the mortgage holder for a discount to the $300,000, say for like $240,000, a 20% discount. Then it would turn around and help me, the homeowner, refinance it for maybe $285,000. It would have $45,000 left that would get split between Richmond itself, Mortgage Resolution Partners, and investors in this plan. So it's pretty obvious why banks hate the idea. They say that it totally abrogates property rights and the rule of law. They say that if this goes through, it opens a Pandora's box where when a bank makes a loan, they have no assurance that they would ever get paid back. I mean, a mortgage is a secured loan. The house is collateral. But in this case, suddenly, if a government entity could just walk in and seize the mortgage at whatever price it considers fair market value, the banks say, why would they make loans?
Well, let's talk about the concept of eminent domain, because that allows governments to seize private property for public projects. And it's usually used for, things like commercial developments or highway projects. In this case, we're talking about individual homes, very unprecedented, as you say. Is there good legal standing for this?
Well, that is what this court case is going to determine. So Richmond and its partners, their argument is that the public good here is to prevent blight, because foreclosures cause blight. They drag down property values for entire neighborhoods, entire community. Richmond is, a working class, lower income community that has not really benefited from the recent run-up in real estate values. Values there fell so low that many properties there, almost half of the homes with mortgages, are still underwater. So Richmond's argument is that this is the public good. But that is an unprecedented new argument, and that is what the court will have to determine.
Carolyn, I have to think that this is, it's a perfect test case, right? Everybody across the country is going to be looking to see if this is a legal option for the cities, and whether, and in a city like Oakland where they do have so many foreclosures, it's the perfect test case. But Richmond City Council, when they voted for this 6-0, had nothing to lose, right? I mean, they're not paying for any legal costs.
Not a penny is coming out of Richmond's pocket. The private for-profit investment firm Mortgage Resolution Partners has said that they will handle all the legal costs, and I would think they could be considerable. I mean, banks have all the money in the world. I would think banks would take this all the way to the Supreme Court.
This also seems like a very philosophical case in that it's unlikely to have any impact on people who are struggling to keep their homes now, because this is going to be tied up in court for years, isn't it? I mean, how could it not be almost a moot point while it crawls ahead through the judicial system.
That is a reasonable point, yes.
But at the same time, I mean, if you do establish some kind of precedent here, there's nothing to say that we won't have another bust at some point down the road. And so, maybe they're taking the long run on this one, even if they're genuinely trying to help their residents right now. But they may also be thinking down the road to, well, what happens the next time we have a bubble burst?
And there are plenty of other cities around the country and in California that are watching this very closely and are are queued up and thinking about it for their cities. I don't know if Oakland per se, but I know Vallejo, Berkeley, several cities in Southern California. East Las Vegas are all cities that are, closely considering it.
But you can also see the critic side of it a little bit in the sense that, these people took on this investment, and granted, it crashed, and many people in a lot of places were affected by that. But it does raise the question of, if it's an easy way out for people who get over their heads in the loan that they got, or, that they're basically coming out from this without taking any responsibility for the decisions that they made early on. And I think it does raise questions about what are the repercussions of that for the city of Richmond. Are people going to want to invest in that if they sort of get a free ride?
Right. Well, that's exactly what the banks say. They say that if Richmond or any other government entity succeeds in this, why would they write mortgage? Either they wouldn't write mortgages there, or mortgages there would be a lot more expensive. And in fact, the Federal Housing Finance Agency this week said that it might curtail government backing in regions that did this, which would kill the mortgage market in those regions. I mean, it would make it impossible to buy a home with a mortgage.
And just real quickly, how many homes are we talking about? Hundreds?
Well, so far Richmond has sent letters about 644 homes, but the actual number of homes in the city that are underwater is several thousand. Many of those homes are backed by Fannie and Freddie. They're government-backed loans that Richmond would not go after. It's only going after loans that are held in private label mortgage-backed securities, which is a small subset of all loans.
Okay. Well, Carolyn, thank you. Certainly an interesting and novel and controversial concept that will be closely watched. Well, this week, 2 strikes by public transit workers were narrowly averted, while a BART strike next week is still possible. These and other recent labor disputes have sparked pointed conversations about the role of unions in today's economy. Have they lost touch with reality, or are they still needed to protect decent wages for the middle class? Now, Josh, there were more meetings regarding BART today. What happens? Will there be a strike?
The most important thing that happened is, no, there probably will not be a strike on Monday. And that's not because of anything that came out of the negotiations today. It's because Governor Jerry Brown received the report that he requested from a special panel he had appointed to gauge the impact on the public. And they concluded, as most of us would have suspected, that a strike would have a profound impact on the Bay Area, a severe economic impact. And so the governor today said that if they have not reached a resolution over the weekend, which I think practically nobody thinks they will, he will go to court on Sunday morning. Yes, that's right. The governor gets to go to court on Sunday morning if he wants to. He will go to court on Sunday morning and obtain an injunction for a 60-day cooling off period in which the negotiations can continue. So it's almost impossible that there'll be a strike on Monday by most accounts.
Even so, though, this whole BART situation, and AC Transit earlier this week threatened to strike. Of course, that was averted. They reached a last-minute deal. All these various strike threats have really brought up the question of labor unions and public perceptions of labor unions. Is that changing?
It is. Well, it's hard to say if it's changing. You know, there are polls to indicate that the unions representing BART workers have not made a terrific connection with Bay Area residents. This is probably
or sometimes other union members.
Or sometimes other union members. I was going to say the Bay Area is probably one of the most union friendly and union member heavy areas in the country that you'll find. Nonetheless, they've had a lot of trouble communicating their plaint to a lot of these people. And I think that is a leftover of the recession that we've just been through, and also of, quite frankly, the income inequality that grew over the decades that preceded this recession. You know, there are 2 ways of seeing this, really. You know, you can say, look, these public workers work for me. I do not have a fixed benefit pension plan anymore. I pay a lot into my health care. I have not gotten a raise in 4, 5, 6 or more years. If I can't have it, why should I pay for it for them? And that's something that the unions are trying to overcome. But the flip side of that is that a lot of people see these striking public workers, and particularly the BART workers now, as the last defenders of what's left of a middle-class American dream that unions helped build for a lot of people over the last half century.
Well, they instituted the 40-hour work week, for example, things that we all get to enjoy now.
There's the old union slogan, the weekend, brought to you by labor unions. But really, wages that pay the bills and allow for modest savings, affordable health care, secure retirement. And there are people out there who look at this situation and say, if they can still win it, maybe there's still hope for us too. And so, the Bay Area public is sort of split on that. The unions and management are grappling with that. This amid an overall national tableau, though, where union membership has fallen to its lowest level since 1916. I mean, there are fewer union members out there than ever. And since 2009, public workers have accounted for a majority of U.S. union members. So if you're not having this fight in the public sector, you're not likely to have this fight anymore.
And does that make it harder for you, a member of the general public, not in the public sector, to really identify with these folks when they're saying we're going to go on strike because we're not getting the benefits we want?
And I think that's interesting. I was going to say, I think a lot of people still have a recession hangover where they don't think things are still bad enough that nobody's going to get anything. But I also think that there's a younger generation of workers, the techie workers who are like, pension? What's a pension? I mean, quite literally, they don't know. And so when you're asking for these things from a BART perspective, it's hard to sympathize when you have workers who didn't grow up in a heavily union workplace or workforce.
It's not only that. There is a component of that, but there's also a component of the fact that BART is the only means of transportation available for a lot of lower income workers in the Bay Area, people who don't have cars as an alternative. They can't choose to sit in traffic if there's a strike. They have no way of getting to work if BART goes down. And, it's not just a sizable inconvenience, it's a threat to their very subsistence.
Their livelihood.
Their livelihood. And it's hard to get those people to sort of see the bigger picture of we are fighting for working people everywhere and the rising tide will lift all boats in the long run if people can't get to work now and are going to lose their jobs as a result of it.
I have to wonder about a 60-day cooling off period because they haven't made any progress so far. I'm wondering, 60 days, are they just going to twiddle their thumbs? What's going to happen?
Well, I think this actually puts a little bit more onus on the unions because if they don't make some sort of movement during this cooling off period that the governor is setting up, there's going to be a feeling of intransigence, and that's not going to play well.
And there's no guarantee that after the 60-day cooling off period, there won't be a strike, because in the 97 strike, a 60-day cooling off period had been imposed, and they still went on strike.
Watch in October.
Okay, all right, Josh, thank you. Well, 1 year ago this week, a fire at the Chevron refinery in Richmond sent thousands of local residents to hospitals with respiratory problems. Last Saturday, demonstrators called for better safety measures at Chevron and for alternatives to fossil fuels. The oil giant agreed earlier this week to pay $2 million in fines and restitution for last summer's fire. David, will this fine help re-mend relations between Chevron and the surrounding community?
Almost certainly not. A couple days before they agreed to pay this fine and these damages here, just a couple days before that, the city of Richmond finally went ahead, made good on their threat, and sued the company. And the comments that came out around that suit were really pretty revealing. The mayor and other public officials in Richmond very critical of the company, the way they've handled the refinery over the years, and also the way they've handled the aftermath. And Chevron, their response to the lawsuit was basically to say this is another sign of the dysfunctional government in Richmond. Neither side really tried to play nice. So even though the company on Monday decided to settle up with the county, which had filed some misdemeanor charges against them, the relationship with the city is still very, very antagonistic.
Aside from this fine under the settlement, is Chevron required to improve its inspection or training programs, or is it just a fine?
Well, there are a lot of components in there of improving things, and you got to realize also that this fine is not the only action that's going on around the refinery and trying to improve the way it operates. There have been investigations and recommendations from different levels of government, federal, state, local. All of these things are sort of in play at the moment, and the company has its own program for trying to clean things up there. So there's still a lot of stuff going on that has not even begun to settle out yet.
Wait, so there have been suggestions made since the fire, but have there been any actual safety improvements or changes made?
There have been some. The refinery has gone around and replaced a lot of equipment, although not nearly as much as many people would like. They have installed some air pollution monitors at the perimeter of the place, although they haven't done everything there that they agreed to do several years ago in terms of setting up some monitors in the surrounding neighborhoods. So they are making some progress on various things, but at the same time, you have a number of different government actions just still hanging over their heads, and all the steps that they'll need to take in the end in response to the fire, we still don't even know what all of those are going to be yet.
And so,
go ahead.
I have heard they want to expand in the Richmond area, and it seems very bad timing for them, number one, to even talk at all about any expansion, and the idea that they would then buy off credits to emit more in a community that has already sent thousands of people to the hospital. In this last one, I remember covering another one where there were many more people inhaling fumes, or the number of times that they've been told to shelter in place. It just seems to me that it has reached a crisis point, really, in the community there.
They had an upgrade project that they wanted to do and that they were pushing for years before this fire burst out, where they wanted to, it was going to expand the amount of gasoline that they'd be able to produce, even though they would still be taking in the same amount of crude oil. They ran into a problem with that with the local environmental community, which actually managed to get a judge to stop the project. The judge ruled that in the environmental review for this project, the company hadn't answered some very basic questions that the critics have been raising about it. So that kind of slammed to a halt before the fire even happened. Now, what they're going to do going forward, the last time I asked them about that, they were sort of going back and revisiting that plan, but gasoline use in California is actually falling now, so they don't have much incentive to do that anymore.
David, I wonder, ultimately, isn't the presence of such a big refinery in such a densely populated area something that, is really incompatible? Could there be a scenario in which Chevron would just pull out? Although in that case, I would think Richmond would be very unhappy because they are the largest property taxpayer in the city.
Yeah. No, the refinery actually predates the city. The refinery was built there before the city was established. But yeah, I mean, if you were actually to go and redo the Bay Area from scratch, you would not put a refinery immediately upwind from a large, densely populated area. No matter how good your pollution controls are, that's sort of asking for trouble. But that's not the situation we have. We have an organic community where the refinery came and the city grew up right alongside it. Chevron has occasionally in the past made some noises about, okay, well, if we can't resolve our problems with the city government here, we may sell off, move out. But those have never really come to pass, and a lot of people in the city just sort of assume that's noise. That's a negotiating tactic.
And David, just real quickly, I think Governor Brown is getting involved in this too. He has called for maybe a single person to be in charge of refinery safety, or a single panel. Single panel.
He put together a task force in the spring that was supposed to look at the state government's role in all this, because the federal government, when they investigated this fire, was very critical of the state. And the state has all these different agencies that actually have a piece of regulating refineries. Those agencies didn't communicate with each other very well, and they're also pretty understaffed. So this task force that the governor put together came out with some recommendations, and the main one was that they want to, by this fall, set up a permanent organization that would coordinate their efforts, and there would be one person who the public could go to for any kind of information on refineries. Okay. So that's supposed to happen pretty soon.
All right, we'll see if it makes a difference. David, thank you. 8 California school districts are being allowed to opt out of No Child Left Behind. The controversial education reform law was launched by the Bush administration in 2002, but has come under fire for its strict requirements and tough sanctions. Now, San Francisco, Oakland, and Fresno, among other school districts, want to try out a different system for holding themselves accountable. Jill Tucker, how unusual is it for individual school districts to get this kind of waiver from No Child Left Behind, and how will they measure their performance?
Well, to answer the first question, they are the only districts in the entire country that have a waiver, an individual district waiver. This is a first under the No Child Left Behind. Prior to this, states were the only ones that could ask for a waiver of the No Child Left Behind law. And frankly, most states got one. 40 states in D.C. have a waiver to get them out from under some of these really bad and expensive sanctions. But they had something that California didn't. They had teacher buy-in and union buy-in to allow the school districts and the state to evaluate teachers and principals using student test scores. And in California, that has been a significant, huge, monumental barrier to getting any kind of waiver from the federal government, from the Obama administration. So these districts basically got together and said, look, we represent 20% of the California population. We are going to create our own system. We are going to now police ourselves, so it isn't the state sort of over them and the federal government over that. We're going to police ourselves. We're going to judge schools and look at schools, evaluate schools using all sorts of things. Test scores, sure, but also what do parents, teachers, and students think of their school? They're going to look at suspension rates. They're going to look at attendance rates. They're going to look at so many different things. And the superintendents from these 8 districts say it'll be much, much better. But they do have this little roadblock that they still have to get the union buy-in as well. They didn't have to have it prior to the waiver, but they will at some point have to have that in order to continue.
And what are the unions saying about that at this point? I mean, what's the feeling?
Well, the California Teachers Association quickly put out a press release when this decision was announced saying it was a divisive and disappointing decision that they made to give these districts a waiver, that the teachers' unions in general had not been involved in applying for the waiver, that they have been left out of the process, and that it's been a very divisive issue within these communities. But we'll see. It'll be district by district. Some of the district unions are already bought into it. In San Francisco and Oakland, that's not the case. So.
You know, with the federal government, the fact that they granted that waiver, does that mean that the feds have signed off on this sort of alternate assessment scheme that the districts have come up with? Or is it simply a kind of thing where, okay, you can try this for a year and then we'll revisit it? Well,
it's a 1-year waiver, but the approval of it is basically giving them the stamp of the approval that the plan that they have is sound, and that in exchange they no longer have to adhere to these incredibly difficult sanctions. They had to pay for tutoring from private tutors, from others, very expensive in schools that were failing. They had to have a lot of busing for schools that were failing. So it was very expensive to be under No Child Left Behind. And No Child Left Behind considered pretty much all schools receiving Title I money for low-income kids as failing at this point because 100% of kids weren't proficient in English and math.
Well, under this new evaluation system then, who polices these school districts that are supposed to have these new systems and are supposed to be working better than No Child Left Behind?
Well, basically they say we all will. And they're going to police each other and themselves. They're going to have an oversight panel or group that will help look at how the districts are doing. And if a school is failing, it will get a mentor school assigned to it to work with them and help them implement new policies. So they will be looking at what the evaluations are showing. It isn't as if they're going to have an evaluation go, oh, that doesn't look so good, off you go. They will be actually sort of policing how everybody's doing, because if it doesn't work and you don't see improvement and there are complaints, it will fail for everyone and they'll be back under No Child Left Behind.
Jill, what's likely to happen after the year is up? I mean, a year seems like a very short amount of time, especially considering what a gigantic system has to be developed. Are they, signaling already that they're hoping to get renewals? And if it is successful, is there a chance that the entire state of California could ask for a state waiver like these other 40 states have done?
Well, they have to bolster their plan. They do at some point have to get union buy-in and then we'll ask for another waiver. I think they're hoping for that. Ultimately, the Congress is trying to rewrite No Child Left Behind, and I think the other districts across the state and California as a whole are hoping that the actual law will change, and they won't have to go through this waiver process and get the teacher union buy-in.
Things are moving through Congress at a steady clip right now, right?
Yeah, that's not working out so far, but I think there's still hope.
All right, we'll have to leave it at that, Jill. Thank you. And I want to thank all of our guests for being with me here this evening. Before we wrap up for the evening, we'd like to take a moment to remember Bay Area sculptor Ruth Asawa. She died earlier this week at the age of 87. Here's an excerpt from KQED's archives, courtesy of the arts program Spark.
Ruth is a community icon. She probably has stood for art and art making and art appreciation more than any other human being in the city.
Well, the inspiration, I think, for Ruth's Aurora sculpture that's made of stainless steel was it was first designed in paper, in origami.
Ruth Asawa's cast bronze sculptures have graced the San Francisco cityscape since the 1970s.
She was in contact with some of the major art figures of the 20th century. She was part of the Black Mountain College experience where she worked with Joseph Albers, and her classmates were Robert Rauschenberg and John Cage and Jasper Johns, and she really has been at the center of the contemporary art world for a long time.
Ruth was born on a farm in Southern California. During World War II, she and her family were placed in a Japanese internment camp, where she learned to make art out of whatever materials she could find. Now nearly 80, and in frail health, she continues to make art every day.
Well, there are many aspects to her artwork, but at the core has been handmade. It's very physical. It's not an abstract process, it's a very hands-on process, and making art is as important to her as the finished artwork.
An incredible lady, and you can see Asawa's art all over the Bay Area. We close with images of some of her work on display at the De Young Museum in San Francisco. I'm Thuy Vu. Thanks so much for watching. Good night.